Hello, and thank you for listening. My name is Luke Mardigan, and this is Be Insured, where we talk about business, leadership, and insurance. That way, on your worst day, when you need it the most, you will be insured. Are your current business processes running as efficiently as they should be? And if not, what's the best way to quickly identify and eradicate the problem? These are the questions that my consulting clients bring to me often. And we've had some phenomenal conversations right here on Be Insured Radio to talking about how to create more effective and efficient systems, specifically our episodes on entrepreneur operating system, customer service, and most recently, finding your perfect patron, your perfect clients. And I highly recommend you scroll through on YouTube or Facebook, find those. We put them all in their own playlists, so it's pretty easy to find. But here at the Mardigan Agency, we recently hired a director of operations to help me as the visionary of the business fine-tune our processes even more. And one of his roles is to identify inefficiencies in our workflows. And in today's episode, we'll talk about how to swiftly identify things that are bogging you down. And it's probably in the opposite way of what you think. How to fix the issues and what opportunities lie on the other side. So I'm excited to be joined by my awesome co-host today, because in the EOS world, they'd call him an integrator. His official title is Director of Operations, Alick Nuremberg. Thanks for joining me today.
Of course. Thank you, Luke.
All right. Operational inefficiencies. That's a pretty fancy word.
That is.
Good luck spelling it. That's like a $100 word right there.
I'll spell it for $100 right now.
I will not pay you $100. We're negotiating salary again. Is that how this is, Alick? Is that what we're back
That's
there?
what this has turned into.
Got it. Right on air live too. Great. Hey, the operational inefficiencies. So with my consulting clients, this is the first thing we go through. So technically there's a strategy session, which is kind of taken a negative connotation in the consulting world, because a lot of strategy sessions are actually just them selling you on stuff. My strategy sessions actually are legitimately like really figuring out where you want to be and what's stopping you from getting there. That's different than inefficiencies, because what's stopping you from getting there is usually like 30,000 feet CEO type things. Like you need to hire a CSR, you need a better sales system. It's big things. Operational inefficiencies are a little more granular. You're on the ground and you're looking at how things are flowing. You're looking at how traffic is flowing within you. If 30,000 feet, you're above a city, you don't notice the fender bender on the ground.
Right.
But if you're looking at inefficiencies of the operation, you see the fender bender and you see how it backs up traffic.
Absolutely.
And how it affects everybody's world, right?
Right.
So in the strategy session, we talk 30,000 foot view. But the first thing we go through in our intensive is, and this is why it's the opposite of what everyone thinks. You'd think you'd start out with, all right, let's talk about all the issues, right? Let's focus on the problems.
Right.
What I found is the best way to uncover your inefficiencies and the issues in your business is to actually begin to list out all the big wins that you've had in your business over the past 2 or 3 weeks.
I love that technique too. That's something you just taught me fairly recently. And yeah, I haven't heard of that before. So.
I haven't either. And it's fascinating because the psychology actually makes sense. When you share wins, right? Typically what you're doing is you're sharing something that usually goes wrong and didn't. And that's why it's a win, right? Like if you're the Detroit Lions and you have a rookie running back rush for over 100 yards like DeAndre Swift did a couple weeks ago, like that's not newsworthy. Your running back is supposed to be rushing for over 100 yards every game.
Right. That
shouldn't be the second time in 20 years that it's happened. Like that's not okay. So why was that a headline? Why was it a win for the Detroit Lions? Because it hasn't happened since Barry Sanders in 1989.
Yeah, right.
Like that's 30 years ago.
It's a long time to not have a 100-yard rusher.
Yes, that's an issue. And you've seen it because the records have been terrible, including 016.
Right.
As a diehard, I'm saying this as a diehard Lions fan. And unfortunately, I've turned my kids into diehard Lions fans because, you know what, I think learning how to suffer is important in life.
Makes one of us.
The reality is when you share your wins, it actually points out something that isn't going or working well. It points to an operational inefficiency. So as an example, hey, agent, tell me about some of the wins in the past few weeks. I actually, what I do is I set a timer for 3 minutes and then we journal on paper by hand, write out the wins. It's the most effective way. And then we take them to the whiteboard. On the whiteboard, they would list things like, I had a client come in and we talked about insurance and they signed right there and I closed the deal right there in the first appointment. I'm like, awesome. Good for you, man. That's great. Well, what I just heard, and I don't say it right in that moment, what I just heard was I typically don't close on the first appointment.
Yeah.
I'm usually meeting with them 2 or 3 times. Or another one that they'll say is, man, I had this client, I've been chasing him and chasing him and chasing him, and I finally got him to meet with me and we moved his insurance over, or he bought a life insurance policy. I had to meet with him 3 times to do it, but we got it, and that's a big win. And it's like, well, yeah, that is a big win. Great, man. That's awesome. You want to sale, but whoa. Why are you meeting with this dude 2 or 3 times? Why are you chasing him? What did you do wrong on the front end? There's an issue in your operations that you are missing.
Right.
Or another one that's super common is, I want to work with more referral sources, but man, I don't have time to get to the quotes I have now.
Mm-hmm.
Well, how am I going to add business if I'm already swamped? But what they'll say is something like, man, I've had so much business in the past 2 weeks that I can't even get to all of it. It's awesome. I love it. This is great. This is the best time of my life. I can't believe it. So many opportunities. That's a win, right? You have a ton of business coming in.
On one hand, yeah. But then you're missing out on the things you don't get to at the same time.
There's an operational inefficiency.
Right.
So spend 3 minutes, journal through your big wins. This is going to reveal to yourself the areas that should be concerning to you. Now, some of those will be legit wins because we do personal and professional. So it'll be like, I went on a date night with my wife and we had a great time. But that doesn't mean there's an issue in their marriage.
Not at all.
But if it's like, hey, my wife and I were able to spend time together for the first time in 3 weeks, it was so nice. Okay, like you just, by telling me the win, you just told me the problem, right?
Right.
And in consulting, I'm not going to marriage counsel, but I'm going to ask them about it. Like, how's that going?
Yeah.
Because it's hard to sell when your home world's in a wreck.
Right.
So it's just good to check the temperature on it. So once you journal all those things, then go back through them and start, maybe even go through it with a director of operations or an integrator or maybe whoever your right-hand person is at your business and begin to talk about it and say, hey, why were these wins? And one of the things I learned from one of my mentors was you should analyze the wins as deeply as you do the losses.
Agreed.
Why did you win? Why did this work? Now, this is a concept in my background as police and your concept as in military is a debrief. There's always a debrief after every operation.
Every single time.
We didn't raid a house without some type of briefing.
Right.
What went well? What went wrong? What could we do better next time? How are we going to train to this? Is this something we could have avoided? We did a drive-by. When did we do the drive-by of the house that we were going to raid? We did it 3 hours before. Well, gosh, we need to tighten that window up to an hour and a half. And you start identifying operational inefficiencies, even though the raid was successful.
Right. There's always room for improvement.
Yeah.
As cliche as that sounds, like there always is.
Well, talk about your briefings in the military. Like, what were some of the things that you'd go over after an op?
Well, before, you're gonna get everything that's handed down to you information wise, like where you're going, what time you're going, who's doing what equipment you're taking.
Yeah. So that would be akin to in a business, like, hey, here's everybody's jobs.
Right.
Right. Like,
right. Yeah. This is the responsibility.
When we're out of paper, Susie, you're the one who orders new paper and puts it in the machine.
Right.
Okay.
You execute the op, and then afterwards, even if it goes perfect, prepare for, some sort of criticism if you have good leadership. Because like I said before, there's always room for improvement. Everybody can do their jobs better no matter who you are. Jordan could have shot the ball better one game out of his career.
Yeah.
Tiger could hit the ball a little better every single round he plays. So, we were all pretty, we loved our jobs. We took pride in what we did and we tried to do it the best we could, but we looked forward to that criticism at the end during the debrief, just because we knew after that debrief, the next time we went and did something, we were going to be better at our jobs.
Which in your world, it was a safety thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Typically.
Troop welfare first and foremost, and then mission accomplishment. Some people will flip those around, and that's an argument that's still had today.
Well, that's where you got to go read Infinite Game by Simon Sinek and realize that it's not about the mission.
Right.
It's about the people.
Absolutely.
So, in those debriefs, as you talk about the things you can do better, and an issue is uncovered, then at least in the military or in the police, we would train to that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, we didn't have a lot of shootings when I was at the department. You know, I know it's kind of national news and it's a hot topic right now.
Right.
But, you know, I think we had 2, maybe 3 in the 8-9 years that I was at the department. So that's not really a lot.
And it's a good thing.
For the, you know, third largest city in the state of Michigan, right? Capital of city. But every time one of those happened, our next range day, we did something different.
Yeah.
And so I imagine that your next training,
the whole next week, you know, next week or 2 weeks, that's whatever the criticism was that we got back from our leadership. That's what our job was as small unit leaders to focus on. You know, that's what my Marines were going to be training for the next 2 weeks, is whatever we could have done better. That's where we're going to improve. And then, you know, the final 2 or 3 days before whatever it is we're about to execute, we're going to wrap it all together and train everything as a whole and, you know, practice how we play.
Yeah, so I love that. And so that stuff carries over to me into the consulting world because once you have those wins and you brief with somebody on them and they provide that feedback of, hey, you know, you said that's a win. Why is that a win? Because this didn't happen. Well, now you just uncovered an issue. Mm-hmm. So great. You don't have enough time to get to all the quotes. That's an issue.
It is.
Right? It's a good problem to have, but it's still an issue because there's clients who are saying, hey, we want your help, and you're not helping them.
Right.
That's a problem. That's actually one of my biggest heartbreaks in our business is when clients legitimately are like, hey, I need your help. And then I just can't.
Can't get to it.
I can't. Like order of priority mandates that I not get to them actually. And so that goes on your issues list. And then you create an issue list and you do 3 minutes and you write down all the issues that you could think of. Now, usually they're going to be the most glaring ones. And you're usually going to start number one problem that you're going to write down is going to be your number one problem. Mm-hmm. Like first thing that's on top of your head.
Should be, yeah. You should kind of go in a priority order, sort of.
Yeah. It's straight order of priority. And usually that just kind of unveils itself. Like it happens. Like I just fraudulently slipped that one of our issues is that we get too much business and sometimes I can't get to all of it.
Right.
So what's the answer? We have to expand our sales team. We have to take more responsibility off of me so that I can take care of people. Right. Now, you don't work on the fixes. This is when you're doing the wins and you're doing the issues list, you don't actually analyze or criticize the work that you're doing.
Right.
Because the creative process is interrupted by the analytical process.
Yes.
So when you are free-flowing brainstorming, you don't criticize your thoughts. You almost have to take a second person perspective and like act like somebody else is writing this list while you're writing it.
Yep.
And as you're writing it out, you'll unveil a bunch of issues. But what's cool is when you look at that, after you're done with the issues list, when you look at your issues list, you'll find out there's this common theme amongst certain ones. We had one who literally, it was too much time on paper. After every review, she was sending a letter to the client that was handwritten by her, right? Like typed out and signed and put in, like she filled out the envelope, all that stuff. She was doing all of her front end work, like taking all of her policies and bringing them up on her own. There was nobody like preloading them into her calendar, and all of the work on the back end. Like, so like if she met with a client and they're like, yeah, you know, let's raise our collision deductibles up to 1,000. She was the one who actually moved it to 1,000.
Right. And those are, I mean, that's a great thing. You want that in whoever, you want that care and effort into the client by whoever's performing the duty. But at the same time, it points out the issue of trust.
Well, issue of trust. And so then it was, okay, well, why don't you trust your people to get that done?
Yeah.
Oh, they can't. You know, this is our book size and this is how many people I have. Oh, right. Well, then the solution is you hire somebody else. And so literally out of the issues list for her, there ended up only being 3 issues, even though we wrote down like 15 or 20. Mm-hmm. And the number one thing with the most issues under it that could be solved easily by just hiring somebody and having them do it instead. And then she can focus on her bread and butter.
Yep.
She happens to be good at commercial. She's a phenomenal personal agent. She loves people really well. And so that's what she needs to be doing. So there you go. There's the solution. All right, find a CSR.
Yeah.
So then it's just a matter of going through the hiring process and figuring all that out.
Yep. So instead of taking just the problem at face value, you can really just trace them all. Not all. I mean, you can trace a lot of issues back to, you know, a few focal points that, you know, you can fix one thing and solve a lot of problems instead of just trying to take the face value of a problem and solve each one independently.
Yep, exactly. And you know what the most common problem is that I see?
What's that?
Mindset.
Oh, yeah.
I would say, I mean, there's a reason why the 6-figure mentoring masterminds that you can be a part of, Grant Cardone and all these big ones.
Some of the most peaceful people.
And all they focus is on mindset.
Right.
That's why. And so if you're somebody who is a business owner and you are in the insurance industry, and you aren't sure if you have your mind right, if you know how to identify your wins and your issues, then that is something that I can help you fix. And you can go to lsm.consulting. That's lsm.consulting, and download our free guide on virtual selling. And it'll also give you a way to get in touch with me for some coaching. And so we look forward to talking to you on the next episode of Be Insured. Make sure to connect with us on Facebook and Instagram at The Mardigan Agency. That's at The Mardigan Agency. We'll see you next time on Be Insured.